Anyway, now we've often done pieces on this programme about the importance of childcare, both for children and for working parents. Now it seems there's a possibility the Chancellor might be looking at extending free childcare as part of the budget next month, which would be popular with parents. But how would it work with a sector already financially stretched? Joining me now, Harriet Pacey from Tops Day Nurseries. When we've spoken before, you've told me about how stretched you are getting staff, apart from anything else. How is it now with inflation and wages?
Very, very difficult for us. I mean, you hear about it widely that childcare is becoming very unaffordable for parents. Well, childcare is becoming unaffordable for our workers to work in childcare now. And, you know, I'm not talking about those with degrees or even our teachers, those who've got those loans to service. It's our level 3 apprenticeship trained workforce. They form the bedrock of our sector. They are now finding it difficult to work because they can't afford it. They could typically go to Lidl and get paid more for doing their job,
than looking after children, which is so important, and where they have to study as well, you know, and really be on it every day that they come in. Not that people in Lidl aren't, of course, but I mean, it's difficult. You've been making this point politically, haven't you? You've been lobbying various MPs. Yes,
I've been working with our APPG and I've been speaking to various ministers and meeting our MPs in our own constituencies as well. So
and is that message landing? Do you think there may be something in the budget?
I think, yes, the message is landing for sure. I know that out there they're wanting to kind of increase, you know, economic activity and allow parents to go back to work, which is fantastic. But I worry that that's more the angle that's being looked at. And actually, at the moment, we're not paid enough as a sector to kind of keep us going. And the message that I've been really putting across is that April this year is our absolute kind of like D-Day crunch point. Because, you know, for years we've been faced with the increases in national minimum wage and living wage, which is fantastic for our workforce. But, you know, the compounding effect of that with energy and food prices, we can't afford it. And come April, you know, our funding, our local authority funding has gone up between like 3 and 5%. We really can't put more on our private parents. We're being squeezed so much that come April, when that increase comes in, you know, there's going to be so many closures across the sector.
What do you think when you see the strikes and hear our discussion there about public sector people going out on strike, when a lot of your funding comes from the public sector as well? It
does, but we're not in the position where we can strike. Because
but you're going to see places going out of business instead.
That is the alternative. But we can't strike because you know, if we do go on strike, we then just don't get paid and there's no one there to kind of catch us. It's one of those very difficult situations to be in. But if we could, yes, the sector probably would go on strike. We just can't.
Right. It's difficult, isn't it? What do you think should happen for early years, Laura?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad that Harriet's a guest because I've written to the Chancellor with 2 or 3 other backbench MPs making specific requests ahead of the budget about childcare, and nursery funding is part of what we've asked for, looking again at the way the funding settlement is done for the 15 and 30 free hours, because I think there's the highest take-up in all childcare and it's the most well understood by parents.
Well, it has a knock-on for the whole economy, doesn't it?
It does, but I think it is an area that really does need urgent attention. And there are other things that we have raised with him, also about helping people to set up as childminders, because I think improving the accessibility and flexibility of childcare is important, and childminders can often go that bit later into the evening. But at the moment, the kind of regulatory burden on each individual childminder is quite excessive. And if you used, for example, childminding agencies who could take over things like HR and regulation and staffing.
Chase to the bottom. What do you think about that?
Childminders?
No, yeah, well, doing away with the regulatory burden.
No, it's not doing away with it. Creating umbrella agencies like you have in lots of other sectors who might take it so they would pay a fee a year to have things like payroll, HR, all dealt with by a supervisory umbrella type organisation.
Childminders could do more of your sort of work?
I mean, we do work in partnership with childminders. You know, there's a lot of them in the sector. So, you know, anything that could be done to improve that for them, you know, fantastic. But I would just draw you back to your point on the free childcare, is that one of the things in the sector is that when it's free, it's definitely not free.
I know
sense, only because there was an FOI that was done in 2021 which pointed out that the government knew it was underfunding us, and then actual fact, where they're saying to the parents this is free funding, they were only paying us, you know, there was 30% less than what they'd actually deemed it cost.
What would Labour do differently then, Annalise?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this discussion is just showing that, unfortunately, we've not seen childcare receiving the attention that it's needed for many, many years, actually. I mean, we view childcare as an essential element of economic infrastructure, but so often it's just viewed as something over there, you know, it's a kind of add-on. Well, unfortunately, the kind of pressures that Harriet was talking about are now feeding through in many women actually not able to go back to work or not able to work in the kind of pattern that they want to be working in. Lots of women looking after their parents as well as trying to look after kids in their 50s and 60s and dropping out of the workplace. So we do need to do something about this. We've announced some first steps. We're very clear that they're just first steps. You know, for example, for primary age children, obviously we've been talking particularly about younger children, but for primary age children, making sure that there are breakfast clubs available, set out how we can pay for that, cancelling that non-dom tax exemption that, you know, really doesn't make sense.
It all seems to come back to that non-dom tax.
Well, there's
£3 billion.
There's £3 billion there, actually. 365 million of them could be used to deliver those breakfast clubs for every child. Would make a difference, but it's a first step because we need to have an integrated system, one from the end of parental leave through to the end of primary school. And until we do that, we're going to have that block on our economy. You know, it really is fundamental for us as a country. It's not an add-on.
What about the... Sorry.
So I was going to say, I did agree with Bridget when she said that obviously there's no point just pumping money into the same system that's there now, because it's that system, it's that knowingly underfunded 30% that needs to change.
Can I just pick you up on the skills shortage? Because you've actually, here in the south of England, started bringing people in from abroad, something you were calling for last time you were here.
Yes, I was spitting feathers a little, being on the low skilled list. But no, we have just managed to set up a programme with South Africa where we're bringing teachers across from South Africa to join us. But because we're not...
still considered low skills?
No, we've been put on the skilled worker list now, so, you know, champion for us on that one. However, despite our, you know, blatant recruitment problem that we've been showing, we're not on the shortage worker list. So it means that we have to pay substantially more fees for these visas, and the time, you know, the time it takes is a lot longer. But, you know, the first South African recruit actually came to the UK, I think it was about 3-4 weeks ago now, and it's a really exciting programme to work with.
Good. And you're still training people from this country as well.
Oh, of course we are, but this is because we're trying to be an imaginative now. You know, I mean, we've been faced with this problem for a number of years, and we're at the point where we're looking, what can we do? One of the conversations I've been having with some of our MPs and some of the ministers is, you know, about unblocking certain aspects, especially for recruitment. And an idea that was floated was about going back on the need for English and Maths GCSEs for our practitioners to be counted in ratio with the children, something that was brought in 2014 and basically stamped out a whole load of individuals joining our workforce. That was a big problem.
OK, well, maybe some of that relaxation.
I'm hoping that will...
Thank you for coming in again and talking about it. Now,